Welcome, grasshoppers. In this particular game in London, 1863, Steinitz was a very young man, and we're doing this in honor of his... we're doing this stream in honor of Steinitz's birthday, which was yesterday, May 14th of every year. And Steinitz, in his day, of course, was a very strong player. He was a rising star. He couldn't really play anyone on average. I mean, if you know you're going to lose, it's very difficult to play against a strong player. So very often today, since clocks are more affordable, players will give time odds. Players will give time odds of 30 seconds to a greater amount of time, such as AK and Nimsko's recent 30 seconds to 10 minutes for Sapnap, and Ariantari took 15 seconds and 20 seconds against Sapnap. And basically, when players are first starting out, they feel they need some form of an edge to win, and in this particular game, Steinitz is offering the odds of a rook. Now, this doesn't necessarily change the opening for him, as he plays a pure Gambit opening, and this is one of the reasons why I tend, after this Grandmaster handshake, I like to think of the fixing of the center pawns, e4, e5, as the courtesy handshake of players starting out or beginning a game, sharing the center, making sure that no one gets a distinct advantage in space. And in fact, Black would like to put his knight on f6 in order to get castled on the king's side, but without a pawn on e5, White's pawn would push for more space. So therefore, against bishop to c4, we're targeting the f7 square, and in fact, many young players prefer to play the aggressive knight to g5 against the f7 square. And I don't believe in sacrificing the knight on this particular square as part of the fried liver. I prefer the lolly attack, as did Fischer. But this particular defense as Black really tests whether or not White knows what they're doing. So in this particular case, there are only a couple of moves for White that I feel offer chances of aggression. That is d4, as in the Italian-Scotch, the Giuoco Piano, often being referred to as the Italian game, and d4 referring to the Scotch opening. It's a little bit of a combination of both. We can go into the Max Lang attack and many others in this particular occasion. However, knight to g5 and d4 to me are the only viable options for club players against a two knights defense. Playing d3, for example, in the vast majority of cases, just sort of like offers your opponent a chance to set up his pieces without any pressure or problems whatsoever. In this particular game, Steinitz's opponent, a young lady by the name of Dawn Rock, plays bishop to c5 in the hopes that she'll get her pieces out freely, and very often Steinitz would actually play moves like c3, as we will see in the game Steinitz von Bartleben. But here, and this is something that I do recommend for young players, White gets a chance to get Black into the habit of moving the same pieces twice. Getting into the habit of moving the same pieces twice creates more opportunities for us to win. After all, Steinitz is playing without a rook. So we do have to get all of our pieces out and get the maximum value for each and every one of our pieces. So here, in this particular case, after bishop takes b4, c3, the bishop's already moved once, twice, and has to move a third time. Dawn Rock chooses what is thought to be the most respectable continuation, bishop to a5. Now Steinitz and many of the players of that era would probably never think about the modern bishop to e7, which I believe is preferred by Anand against Garry Kasparov in a very famous game. However, bishop to a5, and then White seeks to seize the center immediately with d4. This is thought to be much better than the immediate castles, because Black gets the chance to try to either hold the center firmly and or counterattack the e4 pawn with knight f6. Or perhaps the safer option, as we're going to see in this game, is to play the move knight on g to e7, and this prevents white's attempts at preventing black from castling by attacking the f8 squares. After all, if black wishes to castle, he cannot castle through check. And if the square f8 is under attack, then we don't have this option. Next up, let's just consider for a moment, what are black's options after the move d4? Well, they can, because they're up a rook, simply ignore this. We could even counterattack with a move like b5 and bishop to b7. Remember, black is up a full 5 pawns, and now with the offer of another pawn, black is up a 6th pawn. So all black really needs to do when they're ahead in material is to trade pieces. So Don Rock rightfully plays e takes d4, and Steinitz gets castled. And now, based on what we have told you, what do you think black's best move in this particular position is? Let's just consider a few candidate moves for black. We'll give it a moment. There are, after all, because we're up a rook, all the moves should be good for black, honestly. But there are moves that are more effective against white's Evans Gambit attack. This is the Evans Gambit. And to be honest, I'm not sure that Don Rock was really thinking so much about whether or not one move is better than another just yet, because after all, in the opening phase of the game, many players go by set rules of development, speed, getting the pieces out, just trying to place their pieces on the most natural squares, and very often, as it turns out here,
said DXC BXC.
Good morning, Nico. Bishop takes c3, fascinating move. Absolutely. I would like to actually see that one in practice.
D maybe.
Bishop takes c3 seems like a very reasonable move. D takes c3 sort of removes our own center pawn from the mix, but we could seek further exchanges with bishop takes. The move that I was considering, the best move in the position, is just to cross and cover with knight on g to e7, preventing any problems in black getting his king out, or her king out of the center with out losing control of the f8 square. Knight f6, which was played by her, is certainly a good move. However, in this particular position, white has the chance to prevent black from castling, as we are no longer able to castle because we're not allowed to move our king through check. It just isn't happening. So I'm not entirely positive what was going through her mind here, as even your moves, d takes c3, bishop takes c3, are still viable and acceptable. We will see d6 later in a game Steinitz-Pilal, which white will, of course, wrench open the center with the move e5. Don Rock chooses bishop to b6. And in this particular position, we're going to take just a moment to look for good moves for white. Fittingly, in this particular position, the opening is affording us opportunities that we might not otherwise have. After all, we are spotting our opponent material. We need to create purpose. Purposeful, powerful moves. We can grab space in the center. We can create threats. We can attack pieces. We can basically...
Nicodemonius
said something among the lines of NG or BXF should work, but I need more than a minute to think about these.
Well, it does take practice to look for your candidate moves for white, by the way. Candidate moves for white should be done without looking for the best move, if possible. They're just moves that will improve your position, improve your worst place piece. For example, you're moving the same piece twice with knight to g5. Black does get a chance to counterattack in the center and blast the center with d5. So, interestingly enough, we don't want to give
Arsenal
any
fan
more
Richie.
material than we already have. Good morning, Arsenal fan Richie. The move that Steinitz chose is, of course, queen to b3, threatening checkmate to the king, as the king has no squares to move to in this particular position. Right? Do I have a better one? Right? So if we can deliver check to the king, so black really only has a few good moves here. In fact, I'm not even
Arsenal
sure
fan Ricky.
Said.
that d6 wouldn't work.
NFNG.
If castles, knight g5, well, castling is slightly illegal because of the attack on the f8 square. So certainly d6 might be the best move for her to survive, but I don't think she was thinking about that. She was thinking very thematically. She does have some knowledge about counterattacking in the center, and unfortunately, now that the mate threat is gone, she shifts gears into attacking mode, and this may or may not be appropriate. Candidate moves for white in this position. Good morning, Richie. So again, we're just going to evaluate and consider all of our possible moves one more time, because the act of just looking at the position, improving our knight, saving our queen.
Read BBQA candidates, I guess.
Indeed. And if you were going to choose a move, you also have to evaluate what the possibilities are that you could be in trouble. For example, rook e1, bishop b5, queen a4 are all attacks on the king.
Nicodemonius.
Said. Same here, but I forgot about the rook.
Most people forget about the rooks. Most people forget about the rooks. In fact, this weekend I was relating...
Kingslayer Sloan.
Said. AHH Stine is one day off my birthday.
Wait a minute now. Rogan, is it your birthday today? Happy birthday, sir. I have not been checking. Happy birthday, or happy belated birthday if it was Saturday. I can only apologize. Rogan Joe Sloan. Ladies and gentlemen, Rogan Joe Sloan. Kingslayer Sloan, mind you. If you're not following him, what are you doing? So in this particular position, the move queen to a4 would be a terrible blunder, because black does want to get
Arsenal
their king
Ricky.
out of the center with
Reese seems strongest KD
queen to d7. And we're down a rook
Kingslayer
already.
Sloan.
Said. Love Olstine.
Love old Steinitz, yes. Rook to e1 check, and now Don Rock finds the best move in the position. Bishop to e6 puts incredible pressure on the pawn on d5, and at the same time, should the queen move away, black will be able to recapture with the appropriate number of attackers and counterattackers. So let's just say that the queen moves to b4, black can then start capturing on d5, because we will only have one defender and black will have two attackers. However, Steinitz in this particular position goes for something even greater.
Arsenal fan Ricky.
Said. Is there BBBC DXC NXC RXC FXC QXC?
Nicodemonius.
Said. QA must be.
Queen a4, it must be. I could see that, but remember to consider all of your options. Obviously the queen is attacked. is there bishop e6, bishop to b5, c6 to c6, knight c6, rook takes e6, f takes e6, and queen e6. It's quite the line that you're getting away with there, but we have to consider that we have to either move our bishop to deliver check, move our queen to deliver check, or the possibility that Steinitz played in the game, and we can actually work this one out because Steinitz goes on a little bit of a king hunt. Now we are sacrificing a rook.
Said.
D takes
DFC seems
e6
fun.
is not only fun, but it's absolutely forced. As the king hunt here, we only need to keep Steinitz's king from running. Every single piece in action. Notice that he's trying to hide away again. With the help of the knight, we get to deliver check and drive the king to the edge of the board. And all of these moves are forced. Now, going back to the starting variation of this particular line, many players actually choose the mate in 2 in this position with
Arsenal fan rookie.
bishop. I'm sorry, mate in 3 with
Very
bishop
pretty
takes
mate.
b3. So this also leads to mate, as it turns out, because we can even if we didn't see that pawn takes would deliver mate, we're going to be delivering mate to this lone king in any regard. So let's just see exactly for a moment where this came from. Where this came from. So in this position, after bishop to e6, we just have to evaluate there's only one piece of greater value on the board besides the queen, and that is the queen. So if you can actually calculate this particular variation, this is a useful game for students to practice calculating from this point. You can easily ask the students to write down what would happen after the move d takes e6.
So BBISNT working because QD and there is no mate.
In this particular position, bishop to b5, check c6. Yeah, remember, we're starting the game down a rook. We can't afford to sacrifice too much material unless it's absolutely going to be made. Bishop to b5, check, c6, more than likely. D takes c6, b takes c6. We have to remember that the knight is still available to cover this square, and sacrificing a further rook on this square, that's interesting. We don't have the queen coming in because our own pawn is in play. Let's just take a quick look. Basically, in this particular position, and we also have the move. Maybe we can just capture the queen because the trade of queens is not good for us. As you pointed out, we always have queen to d7, and all of white's valuable attackers go by the wayside. So this won't work.
Arsenal fan rookie.
Said. CXB.
CXB7, yes, but the knight can also block. So the queen is crossing and covering on this side as well. So in that line, for example, we don't have to worry about this, and capturing allows king captures, and we can keep everything under control. It's just we're running a little bit short here. They have more defenders than we have attackers. So asking the students what would happen after d takes e6 is key.
Okay, cool, thanks for looking.
Yeah, absolutely. I was curious too, because it did look like after this is gone, for example, after bishop to b5 checks c6, I think b, as I mentioned actually earlier, as I was looking at it in my mind's eye, b takes c6, of course, loses the whole kit and caboodle after rook takes e6. We don't really have the option to capture back because of the mate on e7. And we don't have a few other things in this particular position. After all, if b takes c6, rook takes e6 is mate right away, and knight takes b3, as we already mentioned, falls just a little short on both c7 and c takes b7. Queen to d7 check. Well, I apologize. Knight
Arsenal fan rookie.
d7.
Said. BXC NXC RXC FXC QXC NE.
Let's take a quick peek. And if knight takes, we have the same exact problem. This knight is pinned. We don't need to capture it. It's an illusion, Richie, that you have to capture that knight. It's the same mate as usual. Taking advantage of a pin. No need to waste a move capturing a pinned knight. Many of my students, many of the younger players, and I know that you're not a young player necessarily, or are you a
Arsenal fan rookie.
A newer player?
If BXC I meant where NXB was the idea.
Oh, okay, let's take a quick peek. So c6, d takes c6, knight takes. Right. Yeah, we're just coming up a little bit short because we don't have a knight take on c6. Rook takes e6, f takes e6, queen e6, knight e7. So let's just, yeah, knight e7 is illegal in that variation. Oh, I see. If b takes c6.
Arsenal fan rookie.
We don't have
Said.
bishop takes
Yeah,
because of
nothing
knight
works.
e7.
Sorry for distracting the stream.
No, not at all. Asking good questions is the mark of a good student of the game. Absolutely. So as a result, students can actually work out that d takes e6, knight takes b3, f takes e7 leaves black only one option for the king, which looks like it can escape. The bishop on c4 may go to e6, which prevents any escape. The king has to come out even further. We have the knight coming in to e5 to bother the king and to support with the bishop. So this drives the king out even further. The bishop gets to retreat. King moves to the side of the board. Bishop gets to move up. And at the same time, after the bishop moves up, the king is forced to a4. A takes b3 with the knight on b3. Ends the game. Whoops. So let's just look at that for just one brief moment as everything is forced. There's only one continuation. This is a good variation. In fact, it might even be a terrific variation for teaching analysis and calculation. And in this particular position, I prefer the pawn mate because you don't get enough pawn mates in the world.
This Steinitz fellow was a pretty handy player.
He was, but he was also a little bit pretentious, perhaps a bit pompous, somewhat arrogant, and people did not necessarily like him because of his, let's just say, lack of humility. But many of the world champions have that, and it is that mindset that sets them aside.
Arsenal fan Ricky, I bet I could take on him though.
Arsenal fan Ricky.
I would definitely be taking him on. I don't necessarily
good chess
know.
player characteristics.
I would say all great chess player characteristics. If you want to truly be great, you actually have to have that great mindset. And at times, this is going to alienate you from others, unfortunately, in both real life and in social circles. Anyway, hopefully everyone enjoyed this particular game. I will be back with more. Perhaps I'll do yet one more Steinitz game because Steinitz has many masterpieces that have to be encapsulated.
Said. Nice, now all I need is the talent.
Nicodemonius.
Said. Ding is quite a humble guy, or he is for now, or it seems that way.
Arsenal fan rookie.
Indeed.
Said. Where can I buy that?
You have to pay for lessons, I think, unfortunately, from a very strong trainer. I would recommend Arsenal fan Richie, Jakob Ogard's Killer Chess Academy. Killer Chess Training Academy. And you can check it out in the latest episode of Ben Johnson's Perpetual Chess Podcast. It is worth checking out. It is a hefty fee. You can pay by the month, or you can save money by paying by the year. I would consider paying by the year. They also had an endeavor together, 365 chess, I think, with Ramesh and Agard, but they parted ways and creative differences.
Arsenal fan rookie.
Said. You are salt of the earth, but I would go to you when I have some disposable income.
Aww, that's very kind of you.
14970.
Said. Good morning, John. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning, Ollie. We will be back, as my daughter is calling to see if I can take my grandson to school. Cheers and ciao, everyone. Thank you for being here. Let's see where we can send you. We should be able to send you somewhere, right? Who is streaming? We only have a few seconds here, right,
Arsenal
to
fan
make
rookie.
this decision.
Said. Have a good day, Nicodemonius.
Yep,
Arsenal
in case
fan
I
rookie.
do.
Said. Morning, Oli.
Jack Sarkisian is doing
Nicodemonius.
chess.
Said. Arsenal fan rookie you.
Oli 14970.
Thank you for being here.
Said.
Cheers and ciao, everyone.
Arsenal fan
Jack is
rookie
doing some
morning gunner.
puzzles. That is going to be very, very worthwhile. Thank you for being here, Arsenal fan Richie.
Arsenal fan rookie.
Happy belated birthday,
Said.
Kingslayer Sloan.
Oli oh I haven't changed my username yet, I need to change it.
Morning Gunner. Great job. Although I don't know about the word gun in modern circles. It could be frowned upon. All right, cheers and ciao, everyone. Thank you very much for being here. We'll be back.